Good morning everyone, or good afternoon on Sunday, and sorry I'm a little bit late. It took me a while to remember how to set this up because the last few sessions we've done together have been with acrylics, and I'm in a different part of my studio. I kind of divide my oil painting and my cold wax into different areas, and I'd completely forgotten I did it before for the Pieta House fundraiser. Hello everyone, lovely to see you all joining. Thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday. I know some of you may be watching this later on, and it'll be saved so you can watch it later. Today, I asked you last week we did acrylics, and I asked you what you'd like to do, and you voted for a cold wax demo. And I know some of you don't have cold wax, and it doesn't matter if you don't have it. You can, we're just going to be playing with colour and mark making, and you can do that with whatever you have. But I'm just going to show you what I have here now, and then we'll get set up. So I hope some of you are painting with me, and I loved seeing the work you did. So please share again. I get a huge kick out of seeing the work you're doing, because obviously I'm working here in my studio on my own, so I don't see what you're doing. It'd be lovely if we could do it some way like that, but I'll show you what I'm doing here. Turn the camera around. Okay, so I've got some little things for mark making, a bit of packaging, a fur cone, some styrofoam from packaging, an orange hessian mesh. I've got some palette knives. I've got some bamboo skewers, you know, from cooking. I regularly raid DIY and my kitchen. I've got my tub of cold wax here. You can see it's almost empty. And I've got some oil paint. It's a little foam thing. This is a catalyst wedge. You've seen me use this for acrylics, so it can be used also for oil paint. I've got it's like a disposable palette. I tend to use these. Any kind of like waxy paper would work equally well. And down here I've got some pastels, some oil pastels and some regular pastels. I've got some squeegees, and I've got some tissue paper, kitchen paper, and some Brayers. So that's kind of what I'm going to be using. Over here then I have some panels, cradled panels, which I've taped with oil paint on the side. If you don't have cradled panels, canvas would work equally well, or arches, oil paint, any kind of paper that's suitable for oil paint will work really well. These are just some paintings that are I'm working on. I build up a lot of layers, so I'm going to show you today how I start. So just moving this around again. Okay, so what I think I'll do is I'm just going to start by showing you how I mix paint. So if you've got acrylics, you just mix away the same way. Obviously you'll be using water or no water, just mixing colours with your palette knife like we did last week. And I'm just going to show you how I mix with oil paint. So I've got another little tripod over here, so hopefully you'll be able to see me mixing. This is what took me a while to set up because I had to remember what I was doing. Turn the wrong way around, I think, is it? Okay, I think you can see this? I think you can see okay. So I'm going to put my gloves on now because I just forgot yesterday I was painting, and it just takes so long for me to clean up afterwards. So I started painting, when I started repainting again, I started off with acrylics and watercolors, water-based media, because it's so accessible, I suppose, and so easy to start with. I think the first time I started painting with oil paint was about 5-6 years ago, and my very first session with it. Now I'm just opening up the can of cold wax. So cold wax, some of you have asked me, it comes in small tubs like this, and there's lots of different brands available now. When I started, there was hardly any. And my very first tub was Dorland's, and I got a really small jar, smaller than this even. And I use Gamblin because it comes in such a big tin, and I use a lot of it. So it's lovely. It's like fat and buttery and translucent. It's like a butter, you know. It's gorgeous. So I'm just going to add a blob of that to my, plenty of it actually, to my palette, and I try and not get the tin contaminated, so I tend to keep a palette knife permanently stuck in here so that I don't mix it, all the colours mixed up. And I do my mixing on my palette. And now I'm just going to squeeze out some colours. So again, you work with whatever colours you like, whatever colours you have. So I'm going to go for a kind of a pink. And I'm going to go for an orange. I hope you can see this now. Can you see these colours? I hope you can see okay. Yeah, I'll move it down a bit. Can you see that okay? I think you can. And I'm going to go for a green. Green is always good. So oil paint, the first time I painted with it, oh my God, I just fell in love with it straight away. Just the way it's so buttery and slippy and tactile, and the way you can blend. So I really just love it. But I tend to, I don't know, I go between acrylics and I'm going for a blue now. I go for acrylics and I go for as well, and I tend to go, you know, for months with one and then months for the other. Actually, I have another blue here. I'm going to mix two blues. I'm hoping you can see my palette. I think you can, yes. And white. I tend to go for a white, large tubes of white, because you can use that for everything. So that's my most used colour, I would say, white. So I always buy it in a big tube. And then the fun part, mixing oil paint is just one of life's great pleasures. I absolutely love it. And just going checking you can see what I have here. So you just simply take your wax and you just add it to your colour, and then you mix and you see the colour coming through. Oh, I just love this. And you can see also the oil paint was quite shiny, and now it's getting matte, and it's all that volume from the cold wax is adding into it. It's kind of getting fluffy, and it's increasing the volume, and it's getting thicker. So this enables you to do lots of different things. Cold wax increases the transparency of the colour, so you can add layers and you can just stretch it over previous layers and all the other layers will shine through. Because it's so thick, it's very easy to add texture to it. That is just, you can see it's well mixed there now. And because I have lots of palette knives, I just tend to leave my palette knife loaded with the paint to the side. So it makes it easier for me. Now, if you don't have lots of palette knives, just take a fresh one and wipe it with an old cloth or something in between. So now I'm going to go for the orange. Isn't that amazing? So once I started with oil paint and I just loved it, I started experimenting with different mediums. So oil paint on its own, you can work on it on its own, absolutely. But people often mix it with a medium to make it easier to work with. So even if it's mixing with terps, just to thin it out, or you can get mediums like liquid, and it just helps make the oil paint kind of more malleable and easier to work with. So cold wax is just another medium that you add to oil paint. So it doesn't work for acrylics. Now, if you had been working on an acrylic painting and you didn't like it, you could use that as a base layer and then paint over it with your oil paint. And now I'm going in for this green. So you can see how shiny it is here and how dark. And once I add the cold wax, you see the colour is just going to shine through. Oh, I just love this so much. Love it. This is a kind of a sap green. I love this colour. It's sort of everywhere in nature. And I have two blues here. So I'm not really measuring the cold wax. I'm kind of going in. It's almost about the same amount as the oil paint. So I tend to work about 50-50, but some people just have 10% cold. Oh, that's beautiful. 10% cold wax to 90% oil paint. Right up, you know, you can just, or you could have more cold wax than oil paint. By adding the cold wax, the oil paint will actually dry more quickly. Oil paint on its own can dry very slowly. The cold wax speeds up the purpose. And I generally find if I build up a few layers, and I leave it overnight. It'll be touch dry the next day and I can add more. That's with cold wax. And now just this lighter blue. This is kind of reminding me of those lovely blue skies we've been having lately. I'll take off the camera down a bit and show you a close-up. And now I'm going to mix my white. I'm almost out of cold wax, so I'm just going to dip back in and get some more. You can see how easy it is. It's just a matter of mixing it. So easy. Now I'm just mixing some of the white because I may use the white on its own, and I may also use it to add other colours. So when I paint, I generally have one palette with the colours, and then I have a separate one with the whites, one this large, and then I just tend to mix the kind of white with other colours there. So for this I'm just going to add some white here. I'm just going to add white in a few different places because I want to just lighten some of these colours. So it's so intuitive. It's a bit like makeup or something like that, actually. I don't know, it's just so, or icing a cake. So fun, so relaxing, and I love this part of, somebody asked me, how do you get started? How do you feel inspired? Colour inspires me, mixing paint, one of life's great pleasures. So I'm now going to add a little bit of the pink to this, just to lighten it a little bit. Oh, that's nice. That kind of reminds me of those sort of cherry blossom colours. I know they've really been inspiring me this spring. Just really enjoying these trees that you think are regular trees, and you could add more, you can make it lighter. I'm just going to add a bit more white. So if you're mixing a colour, you're generally advised to just do a little bit of the colour to a lot of the white, and then you can always add more of the colour. It's harder to, just going to add a little bit of the green. No, I'm going to add some of the blue, this blue. It's quite of a cool blue. Now that's this colour here. Now so you can really organise it, have everything side by side. And I should have actually had a yellow. I don't think I have a yellow here. It's a transparent, it's kind of an earthy yellow. I don't really like mixing the green with white because it gets kind of dull. So I like mixing green with yellow actually. Now this actually looks brown, but it's a transparent colour, so it'll actually add a lot of warmth. How you can tell if colours are transparent, I can see if any of these now have it. Okay. There's a box at the back of the paint, so the box will be like this. It might be half through or it might be coloured. So I think, if I'm correct, when the box is like this, it means that it's transparent, and if it's black, it means it's opaque. So transparent colours tend to work really well with cold wax for building up layers. I'm just going to try a little bit of this with the green. I actually haven't done this before, just to see, just to mix it a little bit. I'm running out of space here. Doesn't really show a huge difference right now. So I'm just going to take you out of the here and give you a close-up, see if there's any questions. Okay, how are you getting on? So I'm just going to show you, can you see? Can you see that? I hope it's pointed the right way. So these are the blue, and this is the blue with the loaded with the white. The white, you can see how thick and how fluffy the colours are. just love them. So you can see how my palette is already quite full, and I would be better off, you know, with more, having 2 or more space. But I'm just so, I don't know, I'm kind of messy. So I'm just going to pop you up here now, and then we'll start painting. This is what took me a while to set up beforehand. I was trying to remember. Okay. So that's it. That's mixing paint. It's as easy as that. And now I'm going to start working on these panels. So if you have your acrylics, you've just mixed your acrylics and you just dive in with your acrylics. So it's very similar, really. It's just a different kind of paint. And I don't know, for me, it's all about color and texture and mark making. And when you have a blank canvas or a blank board like this, there's an infinite possibilities of paintings. It could be absolutely anything at all. And how I start is I usually put on music, and when I'm working on a series I might play the same music over and over again, and that really helps me just connect back to the same feeling. And I just sort of go into the feelings that I'm having, the emotions I'm feeling from the colors. Even by mixing those colors, there are certain things I'm starting to think about, and I just start. So I'm going to start with this time with some of these beautiful oil pastels. These are Sennelier oil pastels, thick ones, little ones, just to make some marks, just to get over the blank canvas. I'm just going to put it down here, and I'm going to move the other tripod out of the way because I can't barely reach my my palette. So I think you can see okay. Yeah, I think you can. So I'm going to reach for some colors. I'm going to go for a blue, kind of a pink. So you can see they're like big chubby crayons. So this is very similar to when I was working with the water-based media, and I started off working with those kind of water-based crayons. So it's the same approach, it's just a different media. So I kind of work the same way. This is my way in. So I'm just going to start by making some marks, and then I just start responding to what I'm doing. I'm actually using my left hand here now as well. This is too blue for me, too kind of like sky blue. I want something a bit dirtier. And some green. So this is really just about making marks, starting with something, so you get over that blank. So fun. This is so much fun. And then what you can do is you can take a big old dirty brush like this, or a piece of foam, or your squeegee, or whatever you have, credit card, and I'm just going to blur these. Just getting some marks down. And I'm really not thinking too much. All this is going to be covered up anyway, so it's not about making something. Oh, I like that. This is all going to be covered up, so it's just something for me to respond to. Now, I don't usually work quite this frenetically. You can see, look, that's just a, it's a scribble. I'm scribbling, just like we scribbled when we were, 3. But things I like there now. I love this thick line going over the thin line. So I'm just going to smudge it. Okay, I like this board. There's an energy there. So if you're working with your water-based media, you can do the same thing. Now I like this one, the way it's only in part of the board and the rest is blank. This is my wallies. Okay, I'm going to go in with some colors now. So now what's happened is I've gotten rid of my blank canvas, so I don't have that fear of like, oh, what am I going to do? There's just these colors and marks. They're all going to get covered over. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to now respond to what I see here and add some colours. So you can see I chose crayons or oil pastels similar to the paint I mixed. And I like some of these lines, so I'm going to add some blues and pinks and greens, just responding to what I have already done. So for me, painting is quite it's quite emotional, really. Actually, it's just, I don't know, I think that's the thing for me with abstract painting, is you're feeling something really deeply, and I suppose maybe that's going through to the painting, and that's what people respond to, if that makes sense. So that's what people say, what's the difference between a child doing it, is you're feeling so much, and it's so emotional, and it can be quite intense, and I find the strangest memories from my childhood will come up, and it's so interesting to me when people buy paintings then and they say that it triggers a memory of their childhood. So there's something happening. It's like a communication, I suppose. The question there, I'm looking for those boards. What are they called? So these are gessoed panels. So if you remember, I did a demo of a wooden board and I applied gesso to it. It's the same thing. You could also use canvas, or you could use any kind of paper that's suitable for oil paint. All work equally well. But this is a cradled gessoed panel, so it's like cradled, so you could already hang it on a wall. I put tape because I am messy and I find the edges can get very, very cruddy, and I just remove it and then I could paint the edges or leave it white. This is already gessoed, and I got this from Cork Art Supplies, and I've linked them in my highlights. It's not an ad, I don't benefit from it, but just so many questions, so I'm just showing you where I'm getting materials. So now I've loaded up the dark blue because of this blue line here. And now we're going to start applying paint. So, and again, I'm now just building on what I've done already, responding to it. And I'm going to go for that darker pink. And I'm going to go down here. And I'm going to go at the bottom because that's the marks I made. So I'm just actually, and I can already see even with the, so you could spread it with your palette knife. By all means, you can use a brush. I'm going to go in there with a squeegee. This is like a cookery show. I've got all this. So this is my dirty squeegee, and I'm just going to blend. But already, can you see how the blue and the pink are already blending and working over the layers, and there's just something happening already. It's the energy of us being together. So I'm going to, so the decisions are what way you blend. I'm going to go this way. And there's paint. So you can wipe your squeegee each time. I'm just wiping it at the edge here. If you want to keep it very clean, you wipe your squeegee with, an old J cloth, a bit of tissue paper, and you can change direction. That'll change now you can only go a few times because then it'll start to get a bit mucky. But there's something interesting happening there already. Woo. So then I think I'm going to add in more color. I'm going to add in some white up here. White is great. White stops everything getting muddy. You could always apply white. Mud is the big thing with oil paint. And I'm just going to add green over here because there's green there. So that's how I start. I kind of work with the marks I've made already and I add more to them. I can see the green and the pink there is getting a little bit mucky. So, and the other thing as well is if it's not working, you can just scrape off what you've done. It's so forgiving. Oil paint is it's so easy, and people are so intimidated and scared by it. And I think cold wax in particular is even easier because all those those big scary rules about oil paint, they don't apply. The only rule is you can't mix it with acrylic. It's the only rule. Everything else you can do. So I've got my green here and I've got a little bit of white, and I'm going to go down with this green and let's just see what happens. Because I know green and blue will work really well together. Green and pink could get a bit mucky, but you know, we're just having fun. So you can see how, that's beautiful, isn't it? You can see how similar this is to the way I work with acrylics, where I'm just layering colour. So even though it's a different medium, the way I paint now there, can you see that? I'm really, really liking that. That's the green over the white. And that is, and actually with the blue, a little hint of blue there too. There's something very interesting happening there already. So I'm just going to build up a bit more here. Quite interesting painting this way for me because I'm I'm painting kind of in front of me, so I'm actually not even really seeing what I'm doing. There's things there I'm liking already. I think what I need to go in now is make some marks. There's a lot of paint left on my squeegee. So one thing I do when I'm painting, I work in multiples, and that's one way. Oh, sorry, can you apply wax medium over dried in acrylic? Yes. Acrylic makes a great starting place. If you have an acrylic painting you don't like, you know, that's your, instead of starting with these scribbles, that's your start. And so your blank canvas, you just take your acrylic painting and you just go over it with oil and cold wax. The only rule is you can't put acrylic over oil paint. That's the only rule. Everything else you can do. Because I've got paint left on my squeegee, I'm just going to wipe this on this board here. Just to, like a throwaway board, just blending it in. And that is a way of, you know, I am quite lavish with my oil paint and how I use it. But I work in multiple boards at the same time, and I wipe off my excess on these spare boards, and that gives me the background to these ones. It's a way of not wasting too much. But I mean, it is wasteful, and I just have to not really think about how wasteful. I just have to kind of go for it. The way I paint, I'm generous and lavish with colour, and you know, I'm not thinking, is this the top layer? I go in with my best colours. So this is interesting, but it's a bit flat. So I'm going to add some marks. Actually, I need to move the oil pastels out of the way because I can't reach my little. So I've got it's a bit of packaging material. I recycle everything. Since I started painting, nothing is getting thrown out in the house. I think it drives my husband slightly crazy. So I'm just going to press this in here and see what mark it makes. I haven't used this one before. Now, can you see how the cold wax holds the texture? Now, if I went over with the squeegee, I would lose this texture. I like that. And you can see how the lighter colours we worked with are coming through. So it's almost, to me now, this is feeling like, I suppose, like sun through leaves. That's kind of interesting. And I'm going to go in with this dirty, it's an orange bag, and it's a Hessian kind of sack, and it makes lovely marks. I was laughing, and an artist sent me a picture of a bag of oranges after the last session, showing me, and she works with acrylics, so it works equally well. So if you're working with acrylics this way, it's thick acrylics with no water, like I showed you last weekend. So I've got my Hessian sack, and I'm just going to press it in. Oh, that's a much more subtle mark. It's nice, isn't it? And here as well, it's interesting. So that's the great beauty of cold wax, is you can build layers. And let's try this fir cone. So you can use things like sticks, twigs. You can also mix other things to cold wax. You can mix ash, sand, like really anything. It's pigment, you know, it's so forgiving, and it's like I keep saying, but for me it excites me so much. It's like the Wild West of painting, because all those normal rules don't apply. It's like really anything, you can do anything, so it's so creative. So I got my fir cone, and I'm just leaving really little, it's not really great marks actually, just, no, little stick marks, it's too pointy. But the other thing you can do is tissue paper. I use a lot, and I have it here, like my cookery program, I've got it underneath my desk. So you can put the tissue paper on flat, or you can kind of crunch it. Also kitchen paper is fantastic as well. So I'm just going to put this here. By doing this as well, it kind of compresses the paint. Let me get my brayer. So this is a brayer, like a rolling pin. If you didn't have a brayer, you could use a rolling pin. It's just it's pressing it down. So this compresses the paint as well as giving texture, and that allows you to keep working for longer, because at the moment the layers are all very thick and juicy. If you work too much, they just all turn to mud. Everything keeps mixing and mixing and it becomes brown. So you don't want that. You want to keep the vibrancy of the colour. And you know, it happens to me all the time. Painting turns to mud. So here's my tissue paper, and already you can see the colours and the marks coming through. I'm just going to go over it with a brayer, just to press it in. You could use your hands or a rolling pin. So you can see I haven't used a brush apart from that dirty brush I used to blend the pastels. You can use anything you have. And this is so fun because I have no idea what it's going to look like. So I'm going to remove it there in front of you, so you get to see it before I do. So it just added some more lines, and look, isn't that beautiful? And the thing with this is this has got colour on it, so I could then take this and add it onto another painting if I had another painting I was working on. So I'm just going to add it onto this one here because it's the same size, and I'm just transferring some paint, and I'm building up marks. So I work in layers, and I work for months and months on paintings. So even this is fast. I'm fast and slow, if that makes sense. So you can see that little lovely transfer. Some of the paint came through here. I could do it again. And I keep my, can't see that, just move you over here. I keep a lot of these papers and I reuse them. They tear eventually because it's just tracing paper. See, that's interesting. It's quite subtle. Obviously, the more you do it, the less colour there. So I'm just maybe going to go in it with a different colour now just to show you a little bit more, and then if you have any questions. So I'm going to go in with maybe the pink and the orange actually, because we didn't really. So I'm going to go with a pale pink here on top, maybe even adding some white, and orange, maybe just that for the moment. So I think I'll start by mixing the pink. You see if I can paint. I'm half looking at the camera while I'm doing this to see what I'm doing, but I want you to see it. So I'm just blending downwards. Oh, the orange is there, it's getting a bit muddy. And I'm turning over. I'm going to build up biceps doing this now actually. Okay. So if you're doing this, you could keep cleaning. Now this is a transparent colour. This is what I mean by translucent. The cold wax has made it more translucent, but it's a naturally transparent colour. This is the transparent orange. And all the other colours, all the marks I made first are still there. And it's blending with the, I'm going to go down over the pink now as well. So the bottom, that's interesting. And I think I'm going to add more white. Now the white is opaque. So you can see the difference. The orange was translucent, but the white is opaque. And I'm going to go for a blue because I see this blue coming through here. So again, I'm just responding to what I did previously, those marks, and I'm just, I suppose, responding to the things I like and doing more of those. I'm just going to put this down and wipe my squeegee. This is getting a little bit mucky. So you can work wet and wet, which means like this, where we're blending the colours on the board or the canvas, or you can let layers dry and add more. So I love the energy of working wet with wet, but it's tricky, you know. It can go wrong. So I'm just going to go downwards with that white. And now because my blue is on the, I'm going to go the other direction now here. And I'm going to use my throwaway board again and just wipe off that excess. Actually, I think it needs a bit more white and maybe a bit of pink. Just going to add some of the darker magenta here. Things are happening there. Look how much paint I've got left here. I'm not going to wipe again because it will just go muddy. So I'm using this other throwaway panel. And because there's very little paint on this board, I can really wipe it off. Now I'm just going to go and mix the other side. Can you see one side is blended? Actually, I love that. Something very, very nice about that. The other thing to do as well is keep changing your direction, you know, working one way and then change the painting. I just keep moving it around. I'm just going to wipe that off. So let's go in with some marks in this. I think let's go in directly with the tissue. I'm not going to use the previous one because I like those colours so much. And the other thing, of course, you can do is you can put your oil pastels and start writing over this, or a skewer, actually. I've got a little kind of barbecue skewer here, and you can just do some little scratchings. And the colours underneath reveal. And we don't have obviously a lot of colour here yet built up. Now, so if this was a new layer and I had a previous layer, by scratching through, the previous layers would come through. It always reminds me of in primary school we used to do that thing where you coloured over a whole page and then you had a black on top, black wax, and then you scratch through to make your it's the same idea. So I've got my tissue and I'm just going to press it down here with my hands and get my brayer, which is disappeared. So I hope this gives you some ideas about how to start with cold wax and oil and how easy it is and how fun and intuitive. And we're just, you know, we've used about 4 colours. So I'm just going to peel this off again. So that's given very little interesting lines. Now there is so much, you can see how much paint it took off. It took off quite a lot of paint. So I definitely don't want to waste that. I'm going to put this here over this. Sorry. You can't see what I'm doing. So it added a little bit, not very much, but a little bit came off. So this I like a lot now. There's something interesting happening here. You can see how thick the paint is here. I could blend over this. I could keep adding more. I could move upwards a bit, but it's so wet now that could get muddy very, very fast. I know this from experience. So what I would like to do now is, and you can look, what I love here is the lines I did at the beginning with the oil pastel are coming through the transparent orange, and then you can see this thicker opaque white on top, and then the pink is a little bit translucent as well. So you can see it's already getting very interesting, and how the blue mark up here is looking a little bit green with the orange, but here it's looking purple with the pink, because they're already blending and blurring and building up interest. So that's it. That's oil and cold wax. It's so fun, isn't it? And so easy. Now I've made a real mess here. But I hope you enjoyed that. And if you're working with acrylics, it's just the same. It's just another way. It's a different kind of paint, and oil paint, is maybe it doesn't dry as fast. But the way I work with the acrylics I showed you last week is I let the acrylic, I don't add water with the Stay Wet palette. So I paint with acrylics in a similar way to how I paint oil paint. So if you have acrylics, that works as well. Obviously not the watery method. Well, yes, actually, I showed you how I spray with water. With this, what you do is you spray with terps to kind of dissolve the paint, and then it's exactly the same. So I don't know if there's any questions, but I hope you are all having a lot of fun. And then I thought we would do another session next weekend, because when I asked you what you'd like to do this weekend, a lot of you also wanted another go with the thicker acrylics. So what I thought I might do is show you how I work in layers, and I haven't touched the panels from last weekend, and I thought I would take those and then add more layers on top. That's the way I work. So it's very similar to how I work here. I'd now let this dry, and then tomorrow I'd go in and add more layers, and it goes on and on like that for months. Or you could have your acrylic painting and go over it with oil paint. So I hope that was fun. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm really enjoying these live painting sessions, and I really, really love all the positive feedback and how much you're enjoying it. Please send me what you're working on. I'll also put up a question box. If you have any questions about materials or anything like that, please feel free to ask me. But have a lovely Sunday, and maybe we'll do it again next weekend, maybe the same time, 12 next Sunday, and we'll work with acrylics, and then we can see after that if you want to keep doing it or if you want to take a break, because we're kind of coming out of lockdown. But have a lovely Sunday, and happy painting, and maybe see you next week. Bye.